Hey guys, AscendantGod here with Raid Shadow Legends. Gonna do both shoutouts at the same time. You ready? Well, anyway, this is again Raid Shadow Legends doing Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss run here. Got the roster that is the usual roster, so I'm going to run through them real quick. If you want a more in-depth view of me, to check out the champion spotlights on them here on my channel, or just look at previous videos of some of the older videos. I have some pretty in-depth reviews of these champions. Just going to skim through them real quick, just really focus on the updates. So, first one in the Clan Boss roster, Steel Skull here. This is a counter group, by the way. So with Steel Skull has a poison on the counter on the A1, which is nice. So some extra poisons, only 35% chance, but still it's extra poisons here and there as a filler. Debuff removal for the stun and heals the champion when I remove it. Increase defense and heal. Next, Tyrell, my attack down champion. Attack down's on his A1. Backup defense down champion for me with his A2. A3 is just damage. Martyr. Amazing counterattack champion. I believe the best in the game in my opinion. She's absolutely amazing. Increased defense and counterattack on her A2. On her A1 she has a defense down, so she's my main defense down champion with the counter on her A1 being defense down. And then she's a backup attack down champion for me with her A3 that does a decreased attack. Dracomorph is my top poison damage dealer, top overall damage dealer. Only downside to him is that he does take up a lot of debuff slots for poisons in order to do the majority of his damage. But he is the top by far. His poisons are on his A2, 4 poisons, 5% of course, for 3 turns, which is amazing. Better than AFR that only has 2 turns, much better, 50% better actually, that is. And then he's my backup weaken and backup defense down champion, so when I need those, in a pinch, he helps out with those. And then his A1 scales based off the number of debuffs on a champion. So of course with the boss at any given time, it's usually 80 to 100% increased damage, which is great. Turvold is one of my most recent champions, the newest champion in the roster. He has a few different things here. He's my best raw damage dealer. So the great thing about him is he doesn't do nearly as much damage as Dracomorph, but he doesn't need debuff slots to do his damage. He just does raw damage, which means no debuffs needed. Now, he is my main weaken attacker. They buffed this recently. He used to only have a 30% chance of placing this. Now it's 55 base, and then with the 2 skill ups, it's 75%. So he has a pretty good chance at placing it, which is great now. It's become more reliable. Before he was kind of garbage. I was almost tempted to replace him because it just wasn't reliable. I was going to put Rosin in his place, but now it seems like he's stepped up. His damage is much higher than what Rosin would be, so probably going to keep him. But his A2 does not play well with a counter group like I have, where it's a pure counter, because he gets an increased attack, increased crit rate, and 30% increased speed, as you can see here. He eats through counter attacks like no tomorrow, but he does get a lot of turns, so he compensates for it with that, so it's okay. He just doesn't play well with a counter group in that regard. But he does play well within the sense that when he gets the increased defense and the counter attack, it scales up his A3 here. Because his A3, the damage increases according to the number of buffs on him, so when he has those buffs and he can use his A3, it makes it even better. So, bear with me, I got a little head cold going on here today. But, alright, so, I'm going to jump right into this. So, like I had said the other day in my video, I'm just going to open up this, see if there's anything good here while I'm explaining this. So just so you know, like I explained the other day in one of my videos, the main thing that I'm focusing on nowadays is Ultra Nightmare, especially since, again, with those recent changes that they made along with Turvold, they did also increase the drop rate for 6-star gear in here, as well as legendary tombs on the highest chest, but overall in all the chests, they're supposed to have an increased drop rate for the 6-star gear, which of all the time that I've been farming, I've literally never once seen it. So hopefully, with this change that happened just a few days ago, hopefully I'm going to see a difference there as far as that too. We'll see. With Nightmare, I'm not really doing that anymore. I even realized last night when I needed to help out with it, I think it was because the boss was blue. Blue is the worst affinity for me because my Martyr is green, Steel Skull's green, so then the champions that are the most, the Steel Skulls keeps everybody alive at the end. Steel Skull's getting stunned, that's an absolute killer for me. And then when Martyr gets stunned, that throws off the counterattacks, and that messes up too. But I realize with the speed that I have right now, everything gets out of whack with Nightmare, and I only end up getting 1 counterattack per turn instead of the 2. It's confusing, but my speed is optimized for Ultra Nightmare now. My group is optimized for Ultra Nightmare. Only changes that I made really recently is I've made Turvold have lasting gifts so he gets longer buffs. I changed Martyr because one of my problems with her was that when she had lasting gifts, she would, that's the 30% chance of extending buffs on champions. Well, the problem was that works great for if people do get extra turns here and there on Nightmare, it would help me. On Ultra Nightmare, it was hurting me because, say, if Tyrell got an extended increased defense or an increased counterattack, instead of the boss stunning him, who I want to be stunned because he's my lowest damage dealer, instead Turvold was getting stunned, my highest raw damage dealer. I just couldn't have that, so I had to modify her. So now instead of being in the offense and support tree, she is now in the offense and defense tree. So it helps with her survival, gives her some counterattacks here and there too from the defense tree. So I'm going to jump right into this. I'm going to start with the defense down, and I'm probably not going to show the entire encounter. I'm probably just going to show the start here to show you how things start out, and then just kind of jump to the end to show you the overall damage, give you a little bit of tips here. Now, as far as with Turvold, if you have Turvold, one thing I'm going to tell you right now, if you have a counter group like mine, ignore the counter. Don't worry about it. Don't wait to use his increased speed or his A3 for counterattack. The only time you want to wait on the A3 is like, I know next turn Martyr's going to give me the increased defense and increased, the increased defense and the counterattack, 2 buffs on me. So instead of having the 3, I'm going to have 5 buffs. It's worth waiting for the A3 for that, especially when there's no weaken up on the boss. If there's no weaken here and my A3 is going to be getting buffs, it's definitely worth using the A3 in the next turn. So in the start of the game, I always use his weaken first. We didn't apply it, which kind of sucks, but I'm not going to use it with Dracomorph because the defense, if the defense down and weaken didn't get applied, then yes, I would probably use his A3. But for now, it makes a lot more sense to do the A2 because that's 4 poisons. Each poison does 50,000 damage to the boss, so poison, as long as there's 4 slots open, is always more worthwhile. The only exclusion is if there's like, say, 2 slots left, there's not a full 4, or if there's only 4, and I need to refresh defense down, weaken, or attack down at that point, because then it's like, well, if I fill those slots, I'm not going to be able to refresh them. So, not off to the greatest start since he didn't cast weaken, but he is going to get a counterattack here on this first go-around, so hopefully he'll be applying it now. His boss is going to go. Of course, you want Martyr going last because you want to put counterattack up and then everybody else goes. Good, and he didn't place the attack down. That's what I want. I don't want attack down on the boss right now because I don't need it. I mean, you look at the damage is a joke. Ideally, this is what I want. So even though he didn't place weak in the first go-around, I do have an ideal scenario in the sense that I don't have attack down now. So that scenario is great. All right, so now see he has 5 buffs on him for his A3. I did recently increase his crit damage a little bit, so nice, 83,000, that's good. That's a good start there as far as that damage. So yeah, I'm glad I increased his crit damage some. And it wasn't at the expense of anything other than I think like 30 defense. But I've had another piece of gear that I put on him that increased it by 70. So really, he still has more defense than he used to anyway. So that's the main rotation here. I'm trying to think anything else to cover before I skip to the more towards the end part of the fight where things get harder and more dangerous. But pretty much the rotation is whenever his A2 is up, I'm always recasting it. Always. Just because I want to have that increased attack, the increased crit rate, and the increased speed as much as possible here. I want him ripping through turns because you'll see, like, he gets so many turns that he's constantly casting the A2, constantly casting the A3. And you look at right now, he was fortunate enough where there's that 5% chance from one of those masteries that you'll reduce the cooldown on a skill by 1 turn. It just reduced this because this should have had 2 turns. It only has 1. So next turn I can recast this and I can cast the A3 right afterwards. I do want to refresh this first because otherwise if I just use this, he's going to lose some of these buffs because he does have lasting gifts, but it looks like he only has 3 turns on his speed, which is great. But that would mean that I would lose the attack and crit rate for a turn. There's no point. I might as well use the A2 while I can to keep all of those up as frequently as possible. Alright, so the basic rotation here again, I mean, I think I covered pretty much all the basics here. Most of these champs, I want to keep the defense down. I want to keep the weaken up on the boss at all times. Now, I can't refresh weaken right now because the boss is full of debuffs, but regardless, I want to use his A3 anyway. I got counterattack coming up next turn, which will hopefully refresh weaken anyway before it falls off of the boss. Other than that, just doing my highest damage right now. I want to try to keep attack down off the boss as long as possible. That's why I want Tyrell getting stunned right now. That's a good thing because, again, he's my lowest damage dealer. I want him getting stunned, and I want to try to keep from getting the attack down on the boss. So now this is great because I have 6 slots filled. This is going to fill up 4 more. So it's going to fill the boss full of buffs. The defense down and the weaken are going to fall off of the boss this go around, which kind of sucks, but I got a counterattack coming up. So hopefully they're going to get refreshed with the counterattack. Most likely he's probably going to end up placing attack down as well. There's nothing I can do about that. But at least there was a couple of turns there where I didn't have attack down, and that was an extra 50,000 damage from 1 more poison on there. Ooh, and he didn't place it again. That's a really good thing. That's bad later on. That's weird though, because he has such a high chance of placing it. It's like each hit has a 40%, and then I think with his skill ups, it's like a 60% chance each hit. So he really should be placing it every turn. Surprised he isn't. He's probably going to now because I don't have anything else to use here. But yeah, now I still don't need it on the boss, but I mean, that's fine. It's eventually, I mean, pretty soon I'm going to start wanting it anyway. Nice, so he has 5 buffs again for this, so he should hit for like over 80,000 on each one. Should. 88,000, nice. He has like 90% crit rate at this point, yet he still doesn't crit sometimes. Anyway, don't need the A3 yet. Weaken and defense down are good. Alright, let's get some extra poisons on the boss, hopefully. Oh, 1 extra poison. See, like I said, Steel Skull isn't the greatest poisoner, but you'll see near the end here that he's my survivor. Like, he keeps everybody alive, so near the end. He sometimes doesn't do the greatest job at it, but my only option to replace him would be Nethril, and Nethril has no chance of keeping champions alive. It would just be more damage overall throughout the fight from poisons and from Giant Slayer instead of War Master. But I think that covers all the basics here for now. So I think you have an idea of the rotation and how all this works. So I'm going to go ahead and skip here more towards the end part of the fight so you can see what goes on near the end here. Alright, now I did want to show you something here real quick. The damage isn't getting that bad yet, but just to show you a part of how Turvold works here. Alright, so I have weaken and I have attack down on the boss. I don't have defense down. Defense down increases his A3 damage substantially. So since I still have 2 cooldowns on this, what I want to do is I want to wait because I want to try to refresh weaken here, number 1, because I don't want that to fall off the boss. Number 2, the next go around you see Martyr's going to put the counterattack on him. She's going to get a turn to put counterattack on him before he gets his next turn. So what I want to do is refresh weaken, wait for his A3 until number 1, defense down is up on the boss, because with her counterattack, hopefully she should be applying it, and if not, maybe I can do it with either Draco or Tyrell here. Secondly, once that defense down is up on there, he's going to also have those 2 extra buffs for the counter and increased defense. So this is one of those incidences where normally I would always want to use his A3 every time it's up, but this is the type of incident where if you're playing with him and you have a pure counter group like this, this is a situation where with him to maximize his damage, you want to use the A1 right now instead of the A3. Just because you'll see what happens here now, because we're going to get the counters. Hopefully the counterattacks. Now I have Martyr go second, because ideally, she didn't place it. Because ideally what happens is Tyrell is the leader, so he always ends up having to go first. I can't change that. Alright, well I'm going to get defense down on the boss now. So Tyrell always goes first to the attack down, and later on into the game, I definitely want him getting the attack down above and beyond anything else. So if debuff slots are going to get filled, I want him to fill the last one if that's what the case is going to be. Next person that goes is Martyr. Reason being is because Martyr does defense down. I would ideally have her going first, but I want her going second because then she's going to put the defense down on the boss so that way when Turvold goes and he counters, he's going to hit for more damage, because she already put the defense down on him, if defense down needs to be refreshed, of course. And then after him, then next goes Steel Skull. I have Steel Skull go next to apply poisons. And then, and of course, I want Steel Skull going after him and her because she has the chance to apply defense down. He has the chance to apply weaken, which means that if Steel Skull goes next, higher chances of doing higher damage if they needed to refresh those debuffs. Now, if they didn't need to refresh them, it doesn't make any difference, but overall, it's a better bet for those types of scenarios. Alright, so now you see he has his 8-3 up, he has 5 buffs on him, so he's going to hit the boss really hard. So it should be over 80,000. 81, 77, that wasn't that great. Alright, and then, let's see here. Alright, so everything looks good. I got the weaken, I got the defense down, I got the attack down, which at this point I want to start keeping the attack down up on the boss. Damage isn't that bad, but all that it takes is a modest amount of damage here. You see like this, and then a War Master not proccing, a stun happening, and next thing you know, somebody dies. So damage isn't that bad yet, but I'll probably run through the rest of this now because this is where strategy starts to come into play of making sure everybody survives. So the counter's about to fall off everybody. There's the poison. This is again those examples that I mentioned earlier with poison. There's only 2 slots. I don't want to waste a 4 poison with only 2 slots, especially because Steel Skull's still going. Steel Skull can place 2 on it, even if he only does 1. Makes more sense that you look and you see this is again where strategy comes into play. You see I got 1, 2, 3, 4 poisons that are going to fall off the boss. Ideally I'm going to refresh weaken and defense down, but I got 4 poisons that I'm about to lose. So next turn I'm going to need those poisons. I don't want to waste it just for 2 poisons, just to fill up the boss this turn around. Because Steel Skull might do that anyway, and even if Steel Skull doesn't, it makes more sense to use those in the next go around. Alright, so I'm fine with attack down. This is where, again, the champions that are backups come in useful. So even though Tyrell's my main attack down, defense down only has 1 turn left. I want to refresh it just in case Martyr fails at it, and good, refreshed it, so that's great. Alright, hopefully he's going to refresh weaken here. Right, hopefully I'm going to get poisons. No poisons. That's 2 slots open, but again, you'll see why that was more advantageous because now I'm going to get to use Drake Moore's poisons now. Oh, she did a counterattack. That's good. Nice. Alright, so weaken isn't on the boss, which is kind of frustrating, but I got a counterattack coming up, so I want to place the poisons right now because again, that's 200,000 damage. I can't pass that up in a turn. I need to apply that. Now, here is again one of those scenarios with him where next turn I want to wait for this because Martyr's about to put the extra 2 buffs on him. He's going to give himself all 3 buffs again next turn. So what I want to do right now is there's no weaken up there. I don't want to attack the boss with my 8-3 without a weaken. It just doesn't make sense, especially when in the next turn I'm going to get 2 more buffs. So I want to wait. Alright, and the weaken. And you'll see this is going to pay off, especially if you look at my previous videos and the damage that used to be done in the previous videos. You'll see how much his damage has increased. Number 1, from the crit damage increase that I've given him. Number 2, from learning how to best get the most damage out of him, how to best play with him in situations like that. I mean, for the most part, it's pretty obvious as to what you want to use on any champion on any given time. But with champions like him, where certain things scale based off of other debuffs that he gets from other champions, it's more advantageous to do it that way. Now, defense down only has 1 turn left, so I kind of almost want to use his 8-3, but I'm not worried about it because we got counterattack coming up, and she's got an attack coming up still, so I got confidence. There's 2 chances there alone to replace that defense. Now you see, so now again, now he's going to do his A2. He's going to eat through the counterattacks, but he's going to hit a lot harder now, and it increased his speed, so he's going to get turns quicker. So yes, he loses the defense, he loses the counter, but defense, the damage isn't that bad yet, so I'm not worried about the increased defense. And again, he's going to hit the boss harder. Hopefully over 80,000, 80,000, 75. Really? The damage for crit can vary so much sometimes. Alright, so attack down is 3 turns. I'm not worried about that. His A3, Tyrell's A3 hits a lot harder than his A1 or his A2. It's his hardest hitting one, so I want to attack with that. Because even without a crit, it was 42,000. That's pretty great. Turvold's my only champion with a lot of crit rate and crit damage on him, because I wanted to prioritize him as far as that because of the fact that he does far more raw damage than anybody, so it just makes sense to prioritize him as far as those types of things. And I just didn't have the gear yet to be able to give them a good amount of defense and a good amount of crit rate and damage and things like that. Now you see, now the damage is starting to get rough here, so that's why I kind of tuned in with this and figured I'd play it from here on out, because when I first started this, I wanted to explain some things, and then now the damage is getting pretty rough. Thing that sucks is right now I can't refresh weak, and there's only one turn left on it. It's going to drop off of the boss. Alright, hopefully Steel Skull is going to get War Master here. Good, good. So he topped himself off. Alright, great. And then with him, it doesn't matter if I get War Master, because he's about to do his A3. Look at the damage from this. Even if he doesn't get War Master, he's going to top his hit points off. Watch this. Alright, well, he got War Master, so he did. But even without War Master, that would have been 120,000 damage. So 120,000, that would have been 12,000 hit points he would have given himself. Wait, no, 30%, isn't it? So, yeah, 120,000, so 30% of that, that would have been like about 50,000. So, I mean, he would have topped himself off, regardless. I don't know why I was thinking it was only 10%. No, lifesteal, I'm pretty sure it's 30% of the damage you do. Alright, so here I have 5 debuffs, so even if I put the poisons up, I'm not going to fill the boss up with debuffs. I want to do that. I want to get those poisons up, and then now, this is where I don't want to fill that slot because I don't have weaken up there. So this is again where strategy comes into play. I kind of want to poison from him, and I want him to have the chance of War Master, but if I fill that slot, weaken isn't going to be on the boss. I do not want that. I need weaken up there for everybody, especially because counterattacks are about to come up too, because you see there's one more turn for counters. Hopefully he'll place weaken here, so it won't be an issue. Alright, well, we got the counter coming up. Hopefully he'll place it with his counter. Really, really hope he's going to do it with his counter. It should. Really? Really? 75% chance these days, and he still misses it? Alright, good, good. Dracomorph has it, so alright, well, you failed it left. Ooh, and I need to attack down on the boss, too. Please place it, please place it, please place it. Okay, good, good. Alright, oh, actually, I had Martyr as the backup for attack down, so she could have placed it on there. That wasn't as big of a deal. It would have been a bigger deal if he had to place attack down and he didn't, and she was about to place a counterattack, because then I would have had to use her attack down instead of counterattack, and then it throws my counterattacks off, and that completely messes things up. That's a bunch of extra attacks that I lose out on. 4 basically every round. So, nice. I want to buff him up. He's going to lose his counterattack and his defense, but I want to get that extra damage, and I think this is the last round where I'm going to be able to get away with it. Hopefully I'll be able to get away with it. Hopefully this isn't going to get him killed here, losing that increased defense. I think he should survive. Oh, man, come on! Oh, man, and look, jeez, that was some harsh damage he just freaking took. That sucks. That really sucks. That was a lesson learned on my part. I can't risk it when the damage starts to get this harsh, because all that it takes is some bad RNG like that. And his defense isn't much less than Dracomorph, so they both just got hit really, really bad, it looks like. But that's the thing, is the boss's damage can vary a lot. And oh, he had the increased defense because of Steel Skull. Alright, well, she didn't get stunned, so that was really, really fortunate. So we should be okay here with the rotation. It shouldn't mess it up. Because, see, normally she would have been stunned there. She didn't get stunned because what happens is there's like a skill in the defense tree, and this is where defense tree is paying off, is where there's a skill in the defense tree where if you take, I think it's like 25 or 30% more of your hit points, there's a 50% chance of removing a random debuff on you. Only debuff you're going to usually get on you, unless the boss is below 50%, is the stun. And even in that, even if you have other debuffs on you, most you're going to get is 2, like the decreased accuracy, or I think it's decreased strength the boss will place on you sometimes. So even then, you still have a pretty good chance of removing the stun. So that is great, because it kept my rotation from getting messed up. I definitely want to use Steel Skull's single target heal to top her off right now. Actually, this is a gamble, because if I do that, when he gets stunned, I'm not going to have it for him. I will have the increased defense, though, so I should be able to heal him with that. I don't know. See, this is a gamble. I feel like I need to keep her alive for those counterattacks. I also need to keep him alive. Alright, well, I definitely need to refresh some things. I need to refresh attack down more than I need to refresh defense down. I need survival more than I need damage. Alright, and then the counterattack is hopefully going to refresh the defense down. I'm going to lose Weaken, but this is the point in the game where, I mean, having lost Turvold this early in just sucks. Like, well, I shouldn't say this early in. It is pretty late into the game. The damage is getting pretty harsh. I can't refresh Weaken with him because if I do, with the hit points he has and the AoE coming up, he's going to die. I need to try to get War Master here. Hopefully I will. And I didn't. He's probably going to freaking die anyway now, so it doesn't really matter. That sucks. This is some really crappy RNG going on near the end here. Well, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to heal him right now because then I'm going to lose that heal for Tyrell, and I need that for when he gets stunned. So I'm going to probably lose Dracomorph here because he's stupid. There's nothing I can do about it. But that's his screw up for not getting War Master there. Bye, Draco. You're dumb. This is, again, where strategy comes into play, though, who you want to keep alive. See, I needed this for him because he's going to be getting stunned this round. Oh, I would have had his A2 anyway. Oh, man, I wish I knew that. I would have used it. I wasn't thinking, I didn't think it was going to be up in time. Maybe I had that reduced cooldown from him on it. I don't know. I didn't think it would be up in time because I ran into an issue like that before where I made a bad decision like that to keep Dracomorph alive and then it cost me Tyrell. Now see, look at Tyrell's damage. I need to remove that from him right now. I also only have one turn on the attack down and I want to make sure that's up at all times too, so I need to refresh that. Even though I'm getting counterattack, again, just still you see crappy RNG can sometimes happen and then it shafts you. The thing that sucks right now is I'm losing a ton of damage. I mean, Turvold and Dracomorph are my two biggest damage dealers, but I'm still getting some War Masters here and there. I'm still getting 30,000, 40,000 here and there, so it's better than nothing. I have a feeling Steel Skull, Steel Skull's probably going to be the next one to die, because now Steel Skull failed at life. It sucks. I feel like they intentionally set up the RNG in this game. RNG is random number generators, in case you don't know. It's basically the randomness of things. I really feel like they set it up so that the randomness gets less random and that you have dramatically less chances of refreshing certain things or getting War Masters or Giant Slayers when it comes to keeping yourself alive, just to shaft you, to try to get you to spend more money, more gems on keys, I should say. I mean, there's just too much. Like, I made a video recently of just some of the corrupt things that they've done. I mean, Valerian, I love this game, absolutely love the game, don't get me wrong. This is about done here. But I can't stand Valerian. They are so ridiculously corrupt. Ever since the Foley paywall scam. No, I don't trust them. They can't be trusted. I love the game, but it's, from my understanding, they bought the game from somebody else anyway. Anyway, this looks like this is about it. What I mean is somebody else developed the game and then this company bought it out, and then that's kind of why it's like you have corrupt people doing it now that are making a lot of bad decisions because they're not the ones who initially made the good game and the good aspects of it. Although they did do a great job with Faction Wars. I'll give them that. 2020. That's a new record. That's a new record. Double shout out. Double shout out. Here we go. Also, 20.85 is a record for me. And that was with bad RNG near the end there. That means it's just going to get better. I could have done over 21 million if I didn't make that stupid decision with Turvold and got him killed. And then on top of that, if he got his War Master and he would have survived, that would have been more poisons. That would have been another 200,000. That would have put me over the 21 million. Just from one turn of it would have put me over 21. Oh man, this is awesome. All right. And you see what I'm talking about with Turvold. Even though he died earlier, you look at how much higher his damage is than these other two that are just raw damage. Okay, now Dracomorph, since he has poisons, 6.8 million. He did quite a bit more than Turvold, like, what is it, like over 50% more. But it's, again, at the cost of taking debuff slots. So yeah, debuff slots usually are going to give you more damage, whether it be poison or HP burn, it's going to give you more. But that's why Dracomorph's my top. But the great thing about Turvold is that this is raw damage, which means it's not taking up debuff slots, yet he is almost my third highest damage dealer. Now Steel Skulls is pretty decent too, but again, no, Steel Skull has to take up some poison slots in order to get that damage. Okay, not as many as Dracomorph, but quite a few, because you consider a lot of Steel Skull's poisons are coming from the counterattack. So even though there's only 2 chances per turn to put poisons up from Steel Skull. With the counterattacks, that's another 2 chances per turn, so it's really 4 chances per turn to put poisons up. So Steel Skull can do quite a bit of poisons with a counter group. If you have a speed group, I don't think Steel Skull's is good, especially if you have another healer or increased defense like I do. I kind of feel like Steel Skull's my weakest link right now, but I don't know. It depends, because you saw Steel Skull did definitely help keep me alive for a few more rounds there, but the damage isn't nearly as high near the end there, so it's debatable. It's like, do I want Steel Skull who doesn't do as much damage overall as, say, if I put Nethril in that place, or do I want the survival near the end to keep me alive for those, you know, say, few extra turns with a couple of champions here and there? I don't know. Eventually I'm going to test that out. Right now I have so many other things that I've been testing and modifying that I want to keep working on this group and maximize them. Once I get to the point where I feel they are maximized, which I feel I'm very, very close to, other than just getting better gear on them, then Nethril's going to come back into the picture in Steel Skull's place to see what I can do. But at this point, I'm really happy with this. This is definitely a step in the right direction, and I feel like the last couple of days I felt like it was rough and maybe I didn't go in the right direction, but now I can see from this damage, I'm definitely going in the right direction with what I'm doing here. It cost me being able to do decent damage in Nightmare, but to be able to 4-key Ultra Nightmare, it's worth it. And being over the almost 21 million, that's that comfort zone where if I can consistently do this from here on out, even when my clan starts downing Ultra Nightmare and we get the boss below 50% for a couple of my keys, I should still be alright. Because again, to get the 4 keys, let me just show you here real quick, to get the 4 keys on Ultra Nightmare, you need to do like 70.2, so almost 70.3 million, which basically comes out to about 18.5 million to make sure that you make it over that. It might just be 18 million. I'm not sure, but let me see here. 18 times 4, that would be 72. So yeah, even with 18, you would still get over. It might even, let me see, 17.5 times 4, that would be 70 million. So it's basically a little over 17.5 million. Basically 18 million is the bare minimum to make sure you get over it, and you get the 72 million damage when you need the almost 70.3. So as you can see, nobody else is coming close. The other champions, they're still farming Nightmare. So you can see Baxley does great on Nightmare. He's our guild leader. He's a great guy. But he's doing like 20.5 million or 20.25 million here, it looks like, on this, which is great. I mean, he's 2-keying this boss, no problem. You need to get that 39. But that's because his group is tuned for Nightmare, and he just does Ultra Nightmare just to kind of get the extra loot from trying to get that lowest tier chest. I can get the lowest tier chest now in 1 key, which is great. I can get the highest one with 4, which is even better. So I'm thinking, even though we're not downing Ultra Nightmare so you don't get the double drop like we do with Nightmare, I still feel like it's more advantageous for me to farm that highest one in here, just because I don't know many clans that really are downing it yet, number 1. But number 2, now that they have the increased chance of a legendary tomb, like the gear from Nightmare, it's garbage most of the time. I usually get 4-star gear. 4-star gear, I'm farming stage 20s. I don't need 4-star gear. It's junk for me. So I basically get a bunch of junk to sell here. And yeah, it's like an extra 80,000 coin or maybe 60,000 on a bad day of coins per day. But 60,000 coins, what's that? Like a chance to try to level a gear from level 8 to 9, maybe. Maybe if you're lucky. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to do Ultra Nightmare, not get as much gear, not get as much items, but get higher quality items for my better champions, for the high level stuff like my clan boss groups and my arena groups and my dungeon groups, because again, Spider I'm still working on, but I'm really happy with this. This group's definitely come a long way. I mean, I started, when I first went into Ultra Nightmare, I came in here with like about, I think it was like 98,000 team power, maybe even 95. I'm now at 138,881. Definitely a lot higher, doing a lot better. Again, Baxley blows me out the water. It's just, again, he's tuned for Nightmare. He's not tuned for Ultra Nightmare. Nobody's prepared for it yet. because they're waiting because they like getting the 2 chests from Nightmare instead. But I think if he tuned his group, he could probably do close to as much as me. He has much better gear, and he's more knowledgeable. There's a few people in my clan that are more knowledgeable. I do the videos not because I know everything in this game. It's because, number one, I've gotten some really good champions. I mean, Martyr's amazing, Turvold's amazing, Drakenmore, absolutely amazing poisoner. I think he's the best poisoner for clan boss in the game. So I try to do what I can to help people out, and plus, even though I'm not the most knowledgeable in my clan, I try to pick their brains to be able to give that information to you guys. So hopefully if you have Turvold, you got some tips and tricks on how to use him. Hopefully if you have like Steel Skull, Drakenmore, some of these other champions, you see how I use them in my group, and maybe it's a little different than what you use, so maybe it gave you some tricks there. So hopefully it did. If not, leave me some questions, comments, feedback in the the feedback here in the video. If there's anything that you do that I don't that you feel could help me, definitely let me know too, because I feel like the main thing that really needs to be done in this group at this point is just better gear. My gear is decent right now, but I could get better gear. And I'll show you the gear that I'm running with. I'm still running with some rare gear, which is sad, but it's my best gear with the best stats on it. Alright, so you see like a rare piece, but, oh no, I'm sorry, this is an epic. It's a rare chest, but it's an accuracy. I need an accuracy and it has speed on it. I don't have any other speed pieces, accuracy chest pieces that are speed that have speed on them like this. So it was the only one that I could put on it. But otherwise, and you got a couple other rares on him too. So it's like you see a couple rares on her, quite a few rares, actually mostly rares, 5 rares and only 1 epic. But again, it's because they have the stats that I needed. It's got the accuracy and the speed that I needed. And it does have crit rate and hit points. So it's all stats that I could use on her that are good. And then again, speed, accuracy, hit points. The attack I don't need, but that's about it though. And it looks like I've run out of disk space as far as showing you this video here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is maximize me, so now you get to see a big version of me. But that's all I got for now, guys. I'm going to cut this short here since I can't show you anything else in the game. But again, any questions, comments, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to get to work on these champions here, see what I can do to tweak this up a little bit more. And stay tuned for the next episode. Hopefully in the next one, you'll be seeing me do over 21 million. So until then, guys, I'm going to get to work.
Hi guys, this is Anthony here, also known on this channel as AscendantGod. Wanted to thank you for checking out my channel here, really appreciate it. Be sure to check out the other videos, I got plenty of goodies on here. Also check out the description sections in the videos, got plenty of links on there for all different kinds of goodies that I think would be worthwhile for you guys. If there is something in particular that you don't see on my channel that you want to see, be sure to let me know in the comment section as well. And I think that's about it. All I've got. I'm just going to get back to this thing here. I'm pretty sure if I just... Oh,
we have such sights to show you.
Wow. That's really funny. Same here.